So in a previous audio podcast that I just did before this one, I talked about the possibilities, probably the strong possibilities of where I think several shape-shifting stories of those that I'm Patreon subscribed to right now supporting are going to be heading, especially if they're collabing with a certain individual. But speaking of one of those people that's working on one of those stories, they're also working on another story I briefly mentioned in that audio podcast video, and that was Pink Benefits by Troubletro'S. Now, Pink Benefits, long story short, is a story that's about two protagonist girls, I guess you could say bisexual girls, who have on numerous occasions made love to each other, thanks to their powers and everything, who gained these powers, I guess, through some means, some kind of spell, something. I got to go back and look. But ever since then, the powers have been evolving, to the point that not only can they shapeshift into different women and even men, as we've seen recently, with the character named Emily taking on the male persona of Ethan, which is temporary and everything. Basically, we've seen the powers, like I say, evolve and grow, even to the point that the latest discovery is one of the more, I guess you could say, enjoyable ones that they've experienced, and that's being able to turn into goo. In other words, melt into puddles of goo, or melt down their bodies into, slime goo-like, I guess you could say, texture, material, if you will, that allows them to flow into another person, thus possessing them, and then along with possessing them, carrying on the shape-shifting powers to that individual. But now that we've gotten to this point of the story, and I do recommend checking it out, go support the guy at Patreon. He will also eventually, within time, almost maybe a year, he will eventually bring Pink Benefits over to places like divanart.com and such for you guys to check out. But now that we've gotten to a point where these girls have the abilities to not only, like I say, shapeshift into different ladies and everything, or different men or whatever, but now they have the abilities to become goo-like creatures, slime girl creatures, being able to melt down into puddles and everything to, hide themselves, blend in with the background and stuff and such, as well as just do it out of pleasure, apparently. But with that said, we've gotten now to a point that I think the biggest question, and it's in the title of the video and the podcast here, I think the biggest question needs to be asked. Are we on the verge of a fusion? That's the question. Are we on the verge of a fusion? Because apparently I would not, put it past, something like that to happen. Because here's the thing. As I mentioned in the previous podcast video, basically, I think it was Joven 16 that ended the Amanda and Nicole's recent chapter of the adventure, the story, with them kind of going into a gooey, rubbery, slime girl latex kind of manner, and thus fusing together, merging together into someone new, and at the same time allowing their thoughts to join together. And it was mostly, I think, Nicole that became more gooey than anything else to allow that to happen. One could say, when you look at the end result, that most of Nicole became essentially the dress, the black dress, and arm in I guess you could say dress arms, if you will, whatever those things are, those silky things that ladies put over their arms when they go to fancy events and stuff. You could say in a sense that Nicole basically became that, as part of the fusion and everything. That now she's just, nothing but clothing and everything. But, be that as it may, it still resulted in them becoming one person. And it seems that, in my opinion, in Trouble, if you're listening, if you're watching this, listening to this, you probably know where I'm coming from when I get to this point. And that is the fact that it seems that with both girls being able to go gooey, melt down into puddles, enjoy the sensation and stuff, that I would not put it past him that eventually we're going to get these two meeting up again, and it's going to be soon, where they're going to have intimacy together, and during that intimacy, they're going to get gooey and slimy with each other to the point that it might result in a fusion. That's right. I think that's where we're heading. I think we're heading in the direction with this Pink Benefits story of a fusion between Betty and Emily. I don't know why. It just feels like that's the natural next course to go. The next step. To have them basically, become one person. And do I think it'll happen soon? Well, I wouldn't say it's going to happen in the next story. No. I would say, though, it's going to happen before this year is out. In fact, I'm not a gambling man. But if I was a gambling man, which I'm not, I would put money on the fact that we might see a possible fusion, between the two before we get into the summer. Like I said, I could be wrong. I could be exactly wrong, but I wouldn't bet against it. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't bet against it. Because again, I think Trouble knows that we need to see another, intimacy, another intimacy of eroticness, lesbianness, whatever you want to call it, between the two, down the line and very soon. But this time, have it involve the new abilities to go gooey and puddly and all that. I think Trouble realizes that, especially after doing the Agent Pink Bedlam's Revenge 2 epilogue story and the closing, I guess you could say, final weeks of that. We saw, the gooey and stuff and everything happen there. I think he knows that we're eventually going to want to see something like that occur. It's a matter of when and where. And I think he also knows that what we would probably like to see is them do a fusion. Because if they could both go gooey and everything, what's preventing them from now, kind of suggesting to each other to do a fusion and basically allowing the now puddled, liquefied bodies to reform together as one to see what happens. I'm just saying. So, to me, the most logical next step in the current Pink Benefits story, especially where we are now, is a fusion. I think that's the direction we're heading in. We've already gotten the melty gooey part down. We've gotten the go gooey possess other people's bodies down, if you will. Become one with them or become part of them, if you will, temporarily. So obviously the next step is to go the melty gooey route. Well, not melty gooey route, but the melty gooey intimacy, erotic, NFSW sex, route, which results in a fusion. That's what I'm trying to say. I can't make any more plain and clear than that. That the next logical step, after having the characters, learn how to become liquid and goo and melt and all that, I think the next logical step after that, and after using that ability to possess others and become part of them temporarily, that the next step is a fusion, and a fusion that results, after intimacy, strong erotic intimacy. But that's just my opinion. But what do you guys think? I mean, I know I'm not the only one here on YouTube and at the various podcast locations you're listening to this on, except for Pandora. I know I'm not the only one that supports Troubletro'S at Patreon, or follows him anywhere else, like DeviantArt and Subscribestar and such. But let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know how you feel. Do you think, after everything we've seen with this story so far, that the next logical step is a fusion, after intimacy, if you will? Let me know. Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check out the Teespring store, and until next time, guys, I'm out.